They said, don't do this show because it doesn't have a genre. They said, this is not a thriller. Every spy, whatever genre, has to be a thriller or a drama. Where is humor coming from? And why are you wasting time on the family? So I said, it's called The Family Man.
If the first season works, you have a whole bunch of people telling you why it worked. But none of them are right.
I think my biggest grouse here ends up becoming creating stuff for presuming people are doing second screen viewing. The fact that, oh, people are going to be watching this on a small little window, and when the things come, they're going to make it big, so you have to make it in that way where you have their attention throughout, even with audio. And I'm like, no, like sometimes you have to draw a line somewhere saying, why? Why do you have to do that?
It is really, really special the way everyone kind of lifted the show. I think a lot of goodwill also, made Amazon see that, we should get a second season.
A good friend of ours sent saying that, loved the show. It was actually the most mature, best season I've seen. Great villain, whatever, antagonists, all that. I love how you dealt with all these things, and actually I love the whole thing, but fuck you guys. That summarizes it.
The best compliment that I got was a single-star review somewhere that these filmmakers are bloody doing propaganda for these criminals. They didn't even realize it's fake.
All of us have experienced this from our first seasons to the following seasons. The kind of stuff that has gone down where everything seems like a compromise.
It's so constricted right now that nobody can piss off anybody at this point in time. It's like everybody has to play safe because there's only that many buyers in the market. We have too few buyers in the market, we have too few studios in the market.
And everything becomes catering to...
And everything is then starting to catering towards the whims and the fancies of like 3 people. Yeah. But
I'll
chalo,
tell you the funniest that I got. Like, so there's a place which is called Jadeepura, right? The lawyers came back saying, please take an NOC from Daler Mehndi. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Welcome to all of you. It is very bloody cool to be sitting here with the minds behind some of the finest storytelling this year. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
This has been a pipe dream of mine for a couple of years, to have a showrunners conversation, to assemble many of the Avengers of long form storytelling. And Sudip, I remember talking to you about this last year where you said ambition is something that's looked down upon in this town. And over the last few years, as I've been talking about, all the ambition and excitement, at least for Hindi cinema, really has been on shows, and all your work is a testament to that. I want to start by taking you guys back in time to when you were tackling the beast of your first ever shows, which for all of you, I would imagine is about 7 to 8 years ago. Yours obviously is more recent. Sacred Games, of course, briefly Sacred Games, Paatal Lok, City of Dreams, Family Man. At that point when you were sort of taking on this format for the first time, what was going through your head? What was the toughest part? What was keeping you up at night?
He's the OG, he should go.
Oh, sure. So my OG writer was here, who then, at that point in time, the Coke Pepsi of the industry was happening, so I had to, I was not allowed to use Sudip Sharma because he was working for the rival. And Smita was a... I think we were just trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
We were just trying to... And there was at least from my perspective, I was pretty determined. We all love shows. We got into it because we were loving, all our discussions were at that point, whether it's about Breaking Bad, whether it's about House of Cards, you're so excited about the medium that you're excited to do something, but do you really know how to write a series? No, you don't. But are you going to take somebody's help to do it? Not really. So the whole thing was like, I'd get calls like, okay, we can send you this person to help you out, and you can talk to that showrunner and this thing. And I'd keep saying, yeah, like, give us a little bit of time, we'll sort of like do it, because I was pretty certain that we needed to figure this out. So I think a lot of the process between Varun, me, Smita, Vasant was really just breaking it down. Lots of those typical things of at my place, you'd have all those like the stickies on the walls and the classic sort of like stuff.
Varun told me a very stationary specific thing. He said sticky notes are not meant for Bombay weather because they keep falling down. So you need a better system.
Not till 3 a.m.
I
we
like the
discussed
pin-ups
whether
actually.
it would be
You
a
need the
cat
pin-ups.
or a dog.
Yeah.
But till 3 a.m. we were discussing who would die, the cat or the dog. I think there was
These are the conversations.
everyone was sick of each other by that time.
What about the rest of you, Raj? I remember you telling me you guys were Googling Bibles and step outlines and reverse engineering shows. What was that like?
It was actually Googling what is a story Bible, and then you don't get good answers because we didn't have AI then, right? So
We're going there.
well, we don't want to go there. The whole thing will be about it. But we thought, we tried to read, there were not enough scripts out there. It's not like there's a book written on how do you write a series. We had this idea of The Family Man and a couple of others at that point. That was like some 12 years ago, more than before anybody came in. So funnily, we pitched it to a couple of channels that time, thinking maybe they'll understand a series format. But they like the idea, they'll say, okay, some number was there, 54 episodes or something. I'll be like, okay, bye. So I can't do much there. So I remember that journey and thinking, I don't want to do The Family Man as a film, so we'll keep it aside. There were offers to do it as a film, which we almost went, pitched, narrated, and then pulled it back again. So yeah, it was a big journey wanting to make a series, which was the weird part. We are feature filmmakers making a film and saying, this one I want a series, and I'm waiting for someone to start. And then these Prime and Netflix came in. But otherwise, it was absolutely reinventing the wheel, not knowing who to ask. We were all at a workshop, and we thought, oh my God, somebody's coming, somebody knowledgeable. They were really, really cool showrunners and who were vetting your stories and giving you
This is the
feedback.
very first Amazon
The
workshop.
Amazon workshop.
That was Morgan and all, huh?
Yeah.
That was.
I remember that.
Yeah, so that's when
That
we
was
had...
way before.
I
yeah.
would love to be in that room watching that conversation.
No, so it was like, without going into names as to who what, it was just all of us were excited because we had really basic questions, right? Remember everybody saying that, how long should an episode be? What act structure is it? All kinds of questions were asked, and it was really cool to be part of it. But then we realized it's going to be the basic knowledge at the end of it. There is really no learning there. So we, DK and I and Suman at that point, we decided let's just shoot it like a film. Let's just, I was watching couple of series, actually noting it down, saying when does a scene break? And then you realize at the end of the episode they had shot in 4 locations only. I thought, oh, that's how they save time. That's how they shoot fast. But we couldn't do it. And we started writing, we had like the 20 locations for the first episode. We said, screw it, let's just go like a film. Attack each episode like a film. That's what we know. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, or whatever it is with a prologue.
With a little teaser at the end.
So we thought, let's write like that. So it was really reinventing, and the funniest bit, which I don't know if I told you, is that we were so proud of it when we wrote the story Bible, and then when we gave it to the people who were supposed to get back at it, they said, don't do this show because it doesn't have a genre. So it was like a blow, thinking, what do we do? I know only this much, I don't know what else. So it's like, after all that, they said, this is not a thriller. Every spy, whatever genre, has to be a thriller or a drama. Where is humor coming from? And why are you wasting time on the family? So I said, it's called The Family Man. We went from here. I said, you pick one, drama, thriller, or do a spoof, like the Jack Black series is
The
there.
Brink.
The Brink. It's a spoof, right? So, oh my God, that threw us off so badly at that point.
That person's kicking themselves now.
I don't think so. They must have done great shows after that.
Yeah,
so
they must.
it was inconsequential to them, but it was of great consequence to us, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, but if you do look at it, most of the shows in America, at least in the American, they're all usually very genre based. They don't tend to mix. Some of the British shows do mix, but not American shows. I think they usually stick. If it's drama, it's drama. They don't mix.
I like the fact that even back then they were trying to put things in a box.
Yeah.
Nagesh, what about you? When you were approaching City of Dreams?
My journey started a little before. I was such a huge fan of HBO, and they were the first guys who actually did this like really well. Band of Brothers came out, over 20 years ago. So every time I went back to the US, this is well before streaming began here, I'd do the rounds of different agents and I would pitch ideas that could be developed into a long series format, 8 episodes, 10 episodes. So I did that for a while, but you can't, there for sure, you can't pop in, stay a couple of months and then disappear, because these things take about a year and a half. So when eventually it happened here, before City of Dreams, actually Test Case happened.
Yeah, you directed some of them.
I wrote, I mean, they approached me as a director. And again, like I said, I was just so thrilled to be, you know, a part of something that was longer than a feature. So I said yes, and then I shot the pilot and I left. So technically the stuff that we wrote from scratch was City of Dreams. But I'd sort of been prepping for about 7 or 8 years for that moment. So when it finally arrived, it was like, ah, man. So Rohit and I, that's my co-writer, we just kind of sat and went about it. Like he said, the last thing we were going to do is ask anyone. We're like, yeah, we'll write this. So, you know,
I got this.
Yeah, I got this. And it's arguably the toughest thing that you can do when you do it the first time.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that even comes close. It's I mean, you know, 90 minutes as opposed to 400 is just a beast. So, yeah.
So you said you guys were inventing a system in the room to try and just crack the format. What was that?
Yeah, I mean, it was again, you know, you're just trying to figure out what you can do. And I remember the writers, there were 3 of them besides me in the first one. They walked in the first day and they were like, okay, we are looking at each other, and they're like, what are we supposed to do? And I was like, God knows, you know. So, you know, let's start talking about the story and let's start talking about characters. And it really kind of, I knew one thing, that because I had worked so, I mean, I was so used to working independently as a screenwriter and just having my time and all. That was like, first question that popped in my mind was, oh God, I need to see their faces every day. And that itself was, so we invented a system that, okay, we meet once a week.
Introvert's nightmare.
Yeah, you know, like we meet on Saturdays. Rest of the days, I will give you tasks or whatever, and you guys work on that individually. And then on Saturday we meet, and I can spend one day with you guys. But that's about it. So it really was. It took us a long time. It took us a couple of years to really get what finally came out on screen. I mean, in terms of the writing itself.
You also said that the writers are getting very antsy because for 5 to 6 months you're not writing anything. You're just cracking the plot.
You're just cracking the plot, and you're just, you know, trying to figure the characters and stuff. Because, I mean, I figured that, oh, if I need, I need 6 months to write a film. So I was like, okay, by that logic, 2 years is not that bad. You know, it should take that amount of time. So I was patient with it. The writers did get a little antsy.
Yeah. I mean, you still lucked out with 8 episodes, right? We started with 10.
No, we started with 10, and then eventually we cut out 1 and we ended up with 9.
9.
So the first season had 9.
With 9 episodes.
It had 9 episodes.
We started with 10, got down to 8. And the thing is that what we also, because so the one thing I understood is like the pilot is the most important one, right? Because your pilot's going to be able to, you sell it in with that pilot. Everybody reads it, they're like, oh, this is the tone, this is the feel, this is the casting, so on and so forth. So Varun wrote the pilot, and I thought it was a great pilot. And I thought, yes, it's great, because, you know, actors are reading it, and then they're like, there's more. And at some point in time, I think 3 months before shoot, we were doing the same thing. We were like, okay, let's talk a lot and figure out what are the themes, what are the characters, what are the arcs, and so on and so forth. Until finally, we're like, production's like, guys, if we're shooting in 3 months, I need to have material that we can break down. So I had to drag them all off on a writer's retreat to go saying, we're here for a week, and by the time we go back, we need outlines. Even if you don't understand, we need outlines of what's happening in these damn episodes, like end to end, so production can get to work and I get the network off my back. So
But it sounds like a really fun process of discovery.
it was very fun, very, very fun.
Pushkar, you don't have the introvert problem because you sole writer, sole director, one-man army. And this is the first time you wrote anything, right?
Yeah.
So what was that like when you were sort of approaching the beast of a
So
series?
it's basically, I was watching a lot of documentaries, right? So it was majorly, what triggered the show was Don't Fuck With the Cats and Night Stalker. These 2 documentaries, I was watching those and I was just feeling jealous sitting at home कि यार ऐसे मैं कभी नहीं बना पाऊंगा यार, ये कितने अच्छे से बनाई हुई, हमारे यहाँ कैसे शूट होगा ये सब. And I had seen Borat and I had seen Cannibal Holocaust, and I knew there is a genre where you can fake documentaries, and I just thought, if I can't make one, why don't I fake one? So I started writing. It was the first time I wrote anything. मुझे पता चला कि हाँ, there's a thing called final draft which they use, and that's how it started. So I wrote something, I narrated it to my producer and my DOP, and they loved it. And now I know that it's called discovery writing. मुझे अभी पता चला है. But I had no plans in mind. I didn't know how many episodes it's going to be, where the story is going. I used to just write an episode, narrate it to them. We used to just enjoy. What the fuck, ये reaction मिलता था, and just so there is a scene जहाँ पे ना एक linear story के बीच में एक random उत्तराखंड का scene आता है. You've seen?
Yeah.
I had no plans कि ये story कैसे जाएगी उत्तराखंड. Just for the shock value, I wrote that scene and somehow took the story to Uttarakhand in the later half. So that's how I wrote the show, and wrote all the bound scripts, 6 episodes, took it to the network. They loved it, and it was like a dream now. Everyone says कि नहीं यार ये तू झूठ बोल रहा है. मतलब there was no feedback on scripts, no feedback on the shoot.
I know a lot of people would hate you right now.
I know, yeah, I know. But I've been hearing stories कि नहीं भाई ये एक बार हो गया फिर से नहीं होगा. But that's how it got made, because I'd only made one indie film before that.
Yeah.
So
Welcome Home.
Welcome Home, yeah. So I had no experience of, but I like the space of doing everything myself. Just say Welcome Home mein, I remember I was nominated as a sound designer with AK versus AK.
Oh, nice.
In fact, some random awards. So उसमें ऐसा ही था. My producer was my art director, my DOP was my costume designer, I was the sound designer. So
The full indie spirit.
So we love that space, and we are back in that space now.
The other thing that kicked off around this time, when all of you were working these shows, is the concept of a showrunner. So, I mean, this is a conversation we've had multiple times. Vikram, I remember talking to you about it 2 years ago. Do people know what is the term sort of well defined now in the industry, or because the sense you get is people are still wrestling with it, people seem to have different definitions of it. The created by credit seems to be a big ego battle for a lot of shows. So is it a well defined role yet, or are people still trying to figure out what a showrunner is?
Still trying to figure it out.
I don't think it's a well defined role at all.
Not at
yet,
all.
because people
don't
still
know.
don't understand that. They still look at the directed by tag,
Yeah.
and they still think the director is everything, right?
Also because
for
I
a show
knew
as much
when
as
you
for a
invited
film.
me for this, I realized, oh, okay, I'm the showrunner of this. I had no idea. Oh, am I the showrunner? Like, because I have no credit of a showrunner there, but
You have every other credit, so I think it
I-
counts.
but-
That's why
And
people
sometimes the
seem
showrunner
to-
is not the creator. Sometimes you could be a showrunner and not be a creator of the show. The creator is like, more writer based, and as a showrunner, you are the slightly more technically, you're part director, whatever. That also happens.
Right.
So it's because there's no credit to it. You're like, so within networks and industries, they know what a showrunner is, but you go outside showrunner, wo kya hota hai?
There-
But
there's no
Suchin, I
special
also
awards.
think that a
either.
bigger question
Correct.
is, does the showrunner also know?
Okay.
Because what a showrunner is supposed to
I
do.
remember Smita
Actually,
would,
you
Smita
should ask her the
would call me every second week saying,
Yeah.
does this come under
Yeah.
showrunners, right? Can I ask for it? Yes, of course.
I tell you, I thought I'm going to cry, because he was there for everything, and he had no clue what I'm writing. It was nothing creative. It was all about people management. For writer directors, it's different. For purely, if you're a writer and you've never set foot on a set, okay, and I'm coming from a documentary background where you are the khajanchi, you are the person who books tickets, and you're doing everything in the documentary, right? And it's really crazy. And then you're a writer, and doors and windows are closed, and now suddenly there are 200 people screaming, taking pages from your script. Nobody know. It was crazy.
Introvert's nightmare again.
I wanted to scream at everybody to shut up. I said, do you even know what anyone's doing? I had no idea what things are called also. I used to call it a shotgun. It is a showgun. So it was insane. I knew nothing. But then I took heart in the fact that the GOT showrunners also said they didn't know what production design is. So a very sharp learning curve, I suppose.
No, because I was going to say, by the traditional Hollywood definition of it, you and Sudip are technically the true blue showrunners in terms of a writer becoming captain of the ship, where you have directors working with you, under you, which is very heartening. That that you have a writer, and because you are the captain of that ship, it is your baby, and people are coming to you.
Yeah, I mean they say that.
But it's not a standard.
Yeah.
It's different for. It's a case by case thing actually.
So till today, it's just a free for all in every sort of show.
Yeah. It's depending on the dynamics of the team and depending on a lot of things. Actually, it depends on that. It's not everywhere that you would have the showrunner or you would call someone a showrunner and he would be the captain of the ship. It might not necessarily be that.
So that's got to be frustrating for, I imagine, a lot of people, whether it's a writer or somebody pitching a show, of trying to figure out the power structure of what that show should be.
Yeah.
Is it just left to the producer? Who decides?
Even that's nebulous.
Yeah.
So even that's nebulous. Between the producer, the platform, and depending on how much credibility and power the writer has, it kind of, it's on a case by case basis that it gets figured out.
Sounds very frustrating.
It is. It's quite funny.
But just coming to a more hopeful note, I want to come to Black Warrant.
That's hopeful.
Yes, it very much is.
Absolutely.
For the purpose of this conversation, it is. You started the year on a massive note of hope. Black Warrant brought so many of us hope. It started the year with a bang. And I wanted to pick your brain on, it's a really interesting structure to that show, because you're not going for the conventional, there's so many conventional ways of telling the story. It's almost sort of like a bleak workplace drama about a jailer, who's sort of, his very essence is at odds with his environment. You're going through these landmark cases, you're not sensationalizing them, you're not even dramatizing them. You're really trusting the human journey of these characters to tell the story without any sort of big drama, twists, revelations. So did you have any apprehensions of going with that structure? Because that's what makes the show shine? Or did you know from the get-go that this is exactly how I want to tell the story?
No, we didn't. So Satyanshu and me, Satyanshu's my co-creator and lead writer on the show. So he and me went a little back and forth right in the beginning as to what the structure should be. Because when you read the book, your tendency is like, oh, these are all such great cases. And the book is like, it's 200 pages, it's tiny. But it's 200 pages spread over 35 years. So the big decision that Satyanshu and me had to make was that, is this a single season book that we're adapting? Episode by episode, we were jumping 4 years, or are we doing? And Satyanshu was very much for the idea of like, no, let's break this up into multiple seasons. Let's do this longer. Let's actually get it. My instinct was the other way around. I'm like, okay, let's. I agreed with him after like when we debated it for a bit, and then it became in that sort of place. Like we didn't realize what we kind of knew. Okay, it's a workplace drama, right? Where it's except for IIT, it happens to be Tihar.
It's just an insane workplace. Yeah,
but the dynamic in that kind of sense is the fact that yes, three friends would land up at any sort of like institute, instead like they're freshers in a jail trying to figure out their life in there. And I think that dynamic worked really well for us. And within that, when you start to put in these kind of things, so that was something. Once we cracked that, then we were like, okay, this is what we're going to go with. And full support from Applause, full support from the studio to be able to kind of go out there. They understood what we were trying to do. But before, I think one of the good things we did before is that right up at the beginning, we didn't go to anybody with just the idea. It's like I told Satyanshu, I was like, we need to put together our own Bible and our first 2 episodes. Let's write them, let's get them ready, let's take it at that stage. And I think that makes a huge difference when you get that before getting multiple cooks into that broth. You should just like make,
because they'll want to put it in a box of some kind.
Exactly.
You mentioned pilot episodes before. I have to say I love that pilot episode. In the first 7 minutes, you go from the job interview, you're sort of introducing us to the character, then he's flung into this. It's this insane first day at work, and the way it sort of establishes character, setting, plot, all of it is beautiful. At what point did you know that the show really had broken out beyond sort of cinephiles and our sort of parents and family were watching it, and it really sort of got a meaningful audience? At what point did you realize this is really sort of traveled?
It's specifically in this one, it was towards the end of shoot, because one was sort of like realizing that you're always trying to find that perfect show somewhere that kind of like, and because if you take one step back, the struggle I think for the business at large and for the streamers at large has been, how do you be able to get a show that works within the cities and in the smaller towns and for a largely Hindi speaking audience. And I think that there's a you want to be able to crack that every single time. It's not necessary. So it's like while shooting at about 3/4 of the way through, you're like, I think we're hitting that sweet spot where it's like there's enough aesthetic work over here that's very pleasing, to the cinephiles and to that kind of stuff. But there's also a lot of good drama here that can kind of like work, which I was very doubtful about in the beginning. In the beginning, I was like, prison drama is going to be super dark and like not so accessible. And I think that while shooting it, I was saying, and the actors are also great, and they also
you have an insane cast.
Yeah, that cast was great. Yeah. I think the way they all got those personalities out, I was like, okay, this is probably something that could work.
But was there a moment post-release where you're like, okay, this is really hit more than the...
It's when you show edits around. I think that's the only time when you're like, because, and again, introvert's nightmare. You're sort of like doing everything yourself, and you're like, shit, I'm going to show it to like 5 people for the first time. You don't know what their reaction is going to be. But the more you show it, the more you get positive feedback. Where everybody's like, it's great. And I'm like, no feedback. Like, no. And that's when you start to realize, okay, fine, we've got something.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you had that sense on set versus like later on.
A little bit.
Just coming to sort of you and Sudip as well, you guys spent the year taking Jaideep off to the Northeast with both your shows. So I wanted to ask both of you, what excited you about exploring that region and then sort of setting the season there to some degree? Sudip, you grew up...
I grew up in the Northeast, so for me it was personal, I'll be honest. It was... I grew up and then moved out of there, so it had been a few decades, couple of decades that I'd really lived there in any sort of way, and there was just this urge to kind of go back and explore it and see how it is now, and just to be able to just with the writing, spend all the time with the research there, and then so yeah, it really brought back all that connection that I had, and ghosts from the past that needed to be dealt with, they could be dealt with. That was the hope when we started. So that really was the idea. That was the genesis of it, and it just. I grew up in Assam, but I had been to Nagaland even earlier, and Nagaland we chose because of very specific sort of cultural markers that exist over there, which make that place very different from anywhere else in India, even from any other place in the Northeast. Really, it was that. It was more like a, maybe I could make a personal trip while doing the show and have some fun with it.
Tilotoma was obviously in the season. She's excellent in it. She told me that you had a cultural supervisor on set who had the power to veto even you.
Yeah.
If something wasn't sort of feeling authentic, they had final say. Which is rare, I'm assuming.
I don't know if it was rare, but for me,
I can tell you it's rare.
It was very important.
Yeah.
It was very important because I didn't want. I could claim to understand Northeast to some extent, but there was no way that I would call myself an authority. Definitely not on Nagaland. And I wanted to make sure that what we do with the show, because we were dealing with certain sensitive topics, and we were making a show about a place that has not been rightfully represented most of the times. So the responsibility of it was on us of not screwing it up, and we would only have ourselves to blame. So I wanted to make sure that there was someone who was and she was an author and somebody with a lot of she had made documentaries and had just grew up there or lived there all her life. Somebody who knew what we were doing and how she could bring her expertise to help us with that, and to give her. It gave my HODs a lot of heartburn sometimes. We're like, okay, it's a great design, but she says it's not authentic or it's not right, and it belongs to a certain part of Manipur, which is on the border, but it's not Nagaland, so we can't do it. And if she says we can't do it, then we can't do it. Yeah.
Like I said, it's rare, but it's very admirable to sort of take that step and give that person that say. But what about the two of you? I know that was sort of one arc of a very sort of big season. But what excited you about that region and sort of taking the show there?
The format of Family Man itself, being about geopolitics, required us to go to a certain kind of region, right? Season 1, we went north to Kashmir. Season 2 was about the Tamil tribals in the south. And we already knew, we naturally have to pick an area presumably at the border that's, where we can pick the geopolitics of the place, and that's anyway the nature of the show. And of course we were we left a teaser in season 2 saying that we are going northeast in season 3, and because we already knew that's where we were going. That was the idea. We had a seed of a plot, not the entire plot at that point, and then it took us a while to develop it. And before that, when we shot in Tamil Nadu, we were all familiar, like how he's familiar with the Northeast, we were familiar with the South and with Tamil in specific, and we were from the region, we understood all the nuances. So we were very conscious, if you're going Northeast, we have to be truthful, honest, authentic, and represent their point of view for their characters, rather than put our point of views on mouthed by those characters that come from the region. And so we were very conscious about it. Yeah. So we had consultants on board. See, that's why we, rather than focusing on Nagaland, even though most of the story is set in Nagaland, it's really about the cross-border dynamics. And we also kind of, we are also kind of aware that there's 4 states that border, and we chose Nagaland, but it's kind of about the overall region and how it impacts the geopolitics of the region. And so that's the nature of the show, and so it looked like the right place to go to.
But just speaking of season 3, you guys went a lot bigger and wider. It felt like, it was no longer just the Shrikant Tiwari story. It felt like Family Man the world. You're sort of jumping between sort of countries, continents. Is that because you felt that that's the right way to expand the show, to sort of just go bigger? You have a lot more characters this time. Was that what felt like the natural evolution of it?
I was going to say that we didn't want to go bigger and wider. I don't know if that came across. But usually...
I just meant because there are a lot more characters and a lot more arcs. So
Yeah.
that's
one more character extra. Just instead of one antagonist, there are two. Or like, even in season 2, is a whole cabal. Like, so I don't think there were enough, I don't think there were extra characters. Actually, it was a conscious decision not to do bigger scale and not to go, because you always tend to, any sequel you want to be bigger, wider. For us, we wanted to go inner, we wanted to go personal, we wanted to make it
Deeper.
about the family, because we wanted to focus on Suchi and the kids and JK.
this time they're part of the action.
They were all there, and spotlight on all of them. So it was really about them growing together. Even though the conflict is external, it's as much internal as what we wanted. We want to actually withdraw. So maybe Jaideep looks big and tall. Otherwise,
He's never looked cool, I'll tell you that.
I heard that. I told him. I said like, oh my God, people are coming up and saying Jaideep is so hot. I said, wow. Okay, so yeah, the idea was to really focus on a internal journey and reflection. We thought if we were to look back at this series a few years from now, we wanted each season to be slightly distinct from the other one than regurgitating what worked. So it's always a risk when you want to take a different perspective on the show. So we wanted third season to be a little more personal. Second was a bit more, I guess, violent or like more mainstream. So season 2 is more liked by people than others usually because it's a bit more mainstream. One was just fresh. So third had to be personal. So that's how we wanted to see the show later on when we look back at saying this is how we structured it.
Yeah, and we also saw it as like you said, the wider part comes because we saw it as a 2-season arc. We wanted this to be a longer arc. And
Speaking of which, you ended on a very abrupt cliffhanger, which is very unlike you guys because you have the massive audience who can't get enough of the show. So my theory is that because the second season or whatever you want to call it is sort of ready and shot and coming to us sooner than we think. Is that fair to say?
I don't know what Prime wants us to say, but
What about what I want you to say?
no, there is a bigger story.
yeah,
There's a conscious choice to pause the story at the midpoint. You could look at it as a midpoint. The conflict is resolved.
Yeah.
Whoever has been asking, we had to answer this question many times now. I was sitting in the plane.
Somebody accosted you in a plane saying...
So somebody said, I was looking across and this guy was watching Family Man. I was like, oh, so cool. I took a sneaky picture. And then I asked him, how's it going? I said, I love it. And stuff. He didn't know who I was. I just asked him, how's it going? He said, oh, great.
This is the dream market research situation.
No, it is. And then he said, there are 6 others watching. So I got up to walk around and saw, I was like, oh, so cool. This is awesome to be live watching these guys. Then as the plane touched down, and I was waiting for him to either stop the show and pick it up later or finish the show. And he was forwarding it quickly because he knew the time was getting over. So it was like anytime a cutaway comes, he was editing for us.
Ouch.
Which is cool. Like I got over it after a bit, but he was very smart. He was seeing the potent parts. Anytime a train is going, he goes to the dialogue and he knows the first bit will be like cutaway. We try not to do that in the edit, by the way. It's very crisp, the show is. So anyway, the point is that he watches the whole show and I'm like, thank God, I was thinking the plane landed taxiing and the last bit is happening and I'm waiting for him to finish it properly, not forward there. He didn't. He watched the whole show and then he was watching the credits. I said like, what a cool guy, watching credits. Nobody gives a shit. They just see the next episode. And then he goes back and he's scrolling up and down saying, where's the fucking 8th episode? So I was like, oh shit. Then I asked him. So it was a fair analysis. At the end I asked him, how was the show? And he said, oh, it's a solid show. It's a really good show. Pretty good, pretty good. It's actually, I think there's a 4th one coming very soon, is what he told me in a nice way. So
This sounds like a scene in a Raj DK film.
yeah, it is exactly, it was a polite answer, not knowing who I was. Saying, I love it, it's a very good show, but I think the 4th should be coming soon, is what they said.
that's the analysis.
I said, so we said, shit, we have to go back and work fast.
Yeah, no, coming back to the conflict bit, yeah, when some people were asking what happens, like the concept of this season is to stop the war. It builds up to a scenario where the war is about to break out, and so the arc goes up to, I don't know, I'm giving a lot of spoilers here, I think, but...
No, you're good with that.
Yeah.
People binge watch your show before it comes out.
To the prisoners of war coming back, so presumably war stops. the rest of the journey, the personal journey of the characters, each of them, that's what remains now. At least while it starts like it's Shrikant going after Rukma, the conflict changes to stop war. And so that part of it is done. The remaining is...
And the rest of the character's journey is currently in post-production.
In pre-production, let's call it.
Pre-production, yeah.
Also, when that guy from the plane goes home and sees your face anyway, he's going to hit himself very violently.
No, yeah. Oh, no, he was fine. He was nice to me. Either way, he was nice to the show.
No, but once he realizes who he was talking to, presumably.
He'll be like, shit, I should have been given more galis to him.
I should have told him to his face.
One more response was that a good friend of ours sent saying that, loved the show. It was actually the most mature, best season I've seen. Great villain, whatever, antagonists, all that. I love how you dealt with all these things, and actually I love the whole thing, but fuck you guys.
Just coming to the triumph of Khauf, Smita, what I loved about your show is, there are evil spirits, there is the undead, there is sort of ghosts, there is all this traditionally conventional horror, spooky stuff, and nothing is as bone-chillingly scary as being with Madhu, your main character, on a bus in Delhi, pressed up against other men, walking home to her hostel late at night. It's sort of the supernatural is almost cute compared to the deeper themes you're exploring, which is, for me, it was far scarier. So how tough was it to balance that? Because you are exploring some very deep themes of sort of the impact of violence, the psychological toll of it, but also you're packaging it in a way that sort of people might consider conventional horror. So was that a tough balancing act?
Yeah, I mean, see, for me, a genre is really important, whether it's a whodunit or whether it is something like Sacred Games or this. So I did want people to have fun with their genre expectations. I mean, it's not something, I like horror. I like to get spooked, I like the genre a lot. So that there was that. It wasn't that I didn't want that at all. But also when I went to that space, I put her there, and it's me, and I'm going there, and I'm looking, okay, this is where I lived, and then suddenly realized what was really terrifying for me was this, So then it's actually very difficult to find, for once I find the theme, what I'm looking at. Once Sudip left, even for Sacred Games, we were sitting, and the first time Varun came into the room, he just said, what are the universal themes we are going to do with this? And that for me was the greatest beginning. That, once you know that, for me, it's very important to know what I'm exploring through this. So this I knew that, this has to be about the experience of being in Delhi. And even when I pitched to them, my first note was about Delhi and how I see it. So this is the city and this is the real horror. So even in the pitch, they knew that this is going to be more complex than your regular horror. So, and I went very happily thinking that, they would want something very complicated. I mean, why would they want something simple? And they say it came back that, but where is the horror? And, we've also stayed in Delhi and it's not that scary and it's not all the time. And don't you want to balance it out with a little? And I kind of knew that raw and terrifying thing that kind of catches you in the gut and doesn't release. And it's like all the time this relentless terror that I want, it'll only come through this because it's a series, it's not a film.
But I loved how you used sort of the language of horror to really explore the idea of fear and what it means to live in fear, as a woman in Delhi. I also wanted to ask you, you're also exploring the psychological. She's a fractured person trying to recover from a horrible thing that happened to her. Her memory is fractured. So you're sort of literally taking us into her head, but then there's also the demands of plot and sort of. So was that a tricky balancing act as well? That you're, again, sort of the internal versus the external of sort of something happening or whatever the...
So, when I pitched it and when it got greenlit, it was about a woman who's already a psychiatrist. She's an intern and she works in a hospital and she's come for her sister. Something has happened and they greenlit it. And then I kind of saw that a woman who can be so self-aware and who has some kind of support. So the idea was that there was one Madhu that was already there who's self-aware, who understands, and then there was this idea in my head that there is going to be this girl who's going to be in Delhi and we need to really see why she would come and she would never leave. What kind of world is she coming from to enter this gig economy and having these things happen to her and she still can't leave. So immediately I wrote to one of the strictest professors that we had in FTI. I got him to be my creative consultant. We were always scared shitless. Every time we had to go to him with something. And I said, these are the two things, which one do you think? He said, this is so much more visceral, and let's go with this raw, terrifying, visceral thing. So immediately, I mean, the idea of this character started to grow, and for me, everything is character. With Vikram, when you remember when we had done the whole thing, you said we are figuring it out, it's the basics. We gave him 100 pages. I remember the date, 8th January 2016, we sat in front of him and I was shaking inside that he's read whatever we've done for 3 months. And I was so happy. He said, I don't see the character. And I was like, that's it. That's how you know it. You know, that is everything for the show, for the story, for that. So you always keep that in mind and kind of works out.
Speaking of character, Monika is excellent as Madhu.
Yeah,
I'm just going to leave you with a quote that my colleague Rahul Desai wrote about the show. He said, every now and then a show comes along to encapsulate those early days of promise that we first saw with Sacred Games, a show that marches to its own beat without caring for catchphrases like bingeable, second screen viewing and addictive. Khauf is a kind of show that Indian streaming was always supposed to champion. It's ambitious, original, inventive, messy, and a layered reminder of how supernatural stories are rooted in the fear of natural living. It's fitting that the two titles to resist conventional patterns this year, Black Warrant and Khauf, are created by the showrunner and co-writer of Sacred Games, respectively.
It was so special that his name was there for me, and I cried when I read it. I mean, Amazon sent it to me. I was just sleeping, and I woke up and I read it and I cried, and I made sure everyone there in Hollywood Reporter knows how I felt about it. But yeah, it is really, really special the way everyone kind of lifted the show. I mean, there's so many people you want, who'll voice their opinion about the show and make sure that, it's getting, I think a lot of goodwill also, made Amazon see that, we should get a second season or think about a second season,
Sudip, just coming to Paatal Lok, you said something in an interview when you talked about approaching season 2. You said the real challenge was identifying the core of the show, understanding what made it work, and deciding what elements to retain from season 1. Firstly, it worked. It really is some of the most stunning storytelling to come out of the streaming landscape. But what does that exercise look like when you are doing a post-mortem of that first season to figure out what's in quotes working, what people are responding to? What does that look like, and how do you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, see, if the first season works, you have a whole bunch of people telling you why it worked, but none of them are right, or none of them might necessarily be right. You have the platform telling you that, you have the producers, you have the actors, you have everyone telling you that, your friends. Okay, if you're doing a second season, this is what it would need, this is why it worked.
You need a guy on a flight to give you the
breakdown. Yeah. And I think the whole idea was that it's just to go deeper than say, okay, what works was Hathiram's humor, or the obvious things, or what works is a character like Tyagi, and so now this season let's create. That's where you would fall into the trap of now, okay, another season, now let's repeat the formula with a newer character, or
same but different.
Same but different. And we needed to go deeper than that. And in my case, I mean, I cannot tell you like something very specific came out, but in terms of an answer, but I knew the kind of themes that I wanted to explore. I wanted this season to somehow feel a little more about, I don't know how much of it came out, but for me it was, while I was, while we were writing it and even when we were making it, something about the spirit of India, or how I see it, and what it was meant to be, in a different way than how first one was very acerbic, and it was very angry, and it came from that kind of a place, which is probably where I was at that point of time.
You said this one came from resignation.
This one came more from resignation, and also it came post-COVID, so there's a lot of other stuff that's going in your own head, and about life, the universe, and everything else. So a lot of those things was what I was trying to look at, like what is it that, why am I doing another season? Because I never wrote it as something to have a sequel for. I mean, for me, if there was never another season, I would have been happy, because I told the story, and I don't like open-ended stories. I like ending every season very definitely. So it was figuring out, and so what came out was the sort of the essence of the character, and I needed to go on a journey with him and take him on a little ahead in his journey, and can't be just repeat of another case, another location or whatever, and another antagonist, and he slays him, and then if there is ever a third season, then it's now that I'm supposed to
I mean,
think about these.
you've led me to my next question. So do you want to just give us the answer to that, or
I mean, hopefully, let's see. Let's see. Yeah.
I'll ask you again in about 10 seconds. Nagesh, as the star of Paatal Lok season 2, do you want to tell us what it's like being on a Sudip Sharma set? What's that like, being on his set?
So I was just telling Raj DK that he's the only guy who actually took the risk of casting me. Because when I went to meet him the first time, and he and Avinash, both of them were there, and my only question was, I said, why me? And his response was, why not? So I said, okay, I'll do it. Because, so it was very interesting because it kind of ties back to that showrunner discussion that we were having. I've done little bits as an actor when I've worked with some of my ADs who've done short films and stuff like that. But never something, you know, that has this kind of an audience and resonance and all of those things. So when I'm on set, there's no conversation about what might work, what shouldn't, you know, you just tell me what needs to be done. So we do a take, and both of them, Avinash was on the camera and he'd be somewhere else, and technically we weren't done till he okayed it. So I was like, oh, that's, because the same thing of the showrunner thing, right? Like, but what if there's one takeaway for me? I came back and I was like, how the hell are their sets so silent?
I remember we spoke about it.
I was like, how the hell are... Because my sets are just a freaking oasis of screaming. I'm by day one, I've lost my voice. I'm, you know, and they were shooting, and I couldn't even come up with, oh, there were only 4 actors on set. Because the day we were shooting, we had about 45 extras, and we were going to shoot that, you know.
The funeral sequence.
No, not the funeral sequence. Here, we shot here in Bombay as well.
Yeah.
The press conference.
Right, the press conference.
Yeah. So, and they're all whispering and they're talking silently. Shut up, silence. And so that was very interesting in terms of the way, because sometimes they didn't necessarily agree on what my character, you know, or the way I said a line, you know, whatever it was. So it wasn't done till both of them signed off. And I was like, acha, to showrunner ka matlab ye hota hai. Because I've seen Vince Gilligan on a monitor, you know, by the side on Breaking Bad, but never knew that there was such active engagement. So yeah, so he's very much involved in
It sounds like everyone's very scared of you if they're that quiet on your set.
No, not at all. I mean, it's just, I like the sets to become, I get a little rattled if people are screaming around me, you know, and it's, I think it's also just respectful of the actors, you know, and on our set specifically, you know, we had him, we had Janu sir, and first day I told them, guys, okay, we have to present a good face, okay? There are some senior directors who are going to be there as actors, so let's just calm the fuck down, let's just work and be nice and polite. Yeah, I just like that, that easy, friendly atmosphere.
But it was everywhere, huh? So even in Dehradun with those monster friggin', I mean,
that's what he's putting on that show for you.
Just
for you.
As soon as you left.
I need to sneak in when I'm not there.
When you're not there, just show up on set and see what a boisterous mess it is.
But I try and do the same thing. I give these wonderful speeches, you know. Nothing ever pans out. But yeah, I think it comes
once in a while somebody has to pick up the mic and shout, right? The first AD or somebody.
And you get 3 minutes of silence.
Exactly.
And then everybody's like, okay. So for the next couple of hours, everything goes quiet.
Not couple of hours, few minutes.
But I kid you not, huh? Nothing like that happened. I mean, he'd call cut or whoever called cut, and there was just this.
Really?
Really?
Yes.
Usually cut is like a siren going off in high school.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Like
mental.
Explosion.
Starting with the camera team. Oh, I like to start in this art team. Every team jumps into action and is like.
So my first thing is no use of mics on the set.
Yeah.
There are no mics
Yeah.
on set.
There are no mics.
Right.
No mics?
No mics.
No mics.
Yeah.
And so if I ever have to go up to the actors or walk up to the director or the camera person, whoever it is, I would walk and just go and say, this is what we're doing wrong.
That is fine. We
That's-
go
but
up and
never,
talk to the
even
actor.
to even to
That is fine,
like
but
I
if you want to tell the entire
Silence.
crowd,
For silence, we need mic.
it's the AD's job to shout. Then it's not,
Then they
you
do
know,
it, yeah.
because it just becomes too much. And sometimes
Yeah.
I've come across ADs who scream.
Very
you know,
bad things,
who
yeah.
scream in the mic, and I'm like, man, either you scream or you use the mic.
Use the mic.
It can't be both, you know.
No, but also I think it's your persona of, because it trickles down from the top. Because you as a person, you're like, let's do it. I'm not that.
Yeah.
I'm like bouncing from here to there. Ye bhi karo, wo bhi karo, you know. I have a black cloth that, you know, I'm about 6 inches from the monitor and have a black cloth on me. So I don't want other people to come and, you know, participate in the shoot.
Really?
No, I really do.
Wow.
Yeah.
I should
And
al- we should
I'm
visit
sweating
sets.
like a beast in there.
Oh,
but
God.
I'm perfectly okay with it because I just hit people over my shoulder and stuff like that. So I'm constantly, the black cloth is off, the black cloth is on, yelling, scream. So
Wow.
it's coming from the top. I'm not denying that, but I'm just saying, you know, you got to give
But he
credit.
was
where
very quiet on this on this set. I can tell
No,
you.
I mean, I was an actor, so I was
he was
keeping my
super
mouth
quiet.
No backseat directing.
He was super quiet. And another thing I can tell you that half of the girls on the set had a crush on him. They were all drooling over,
Now you've made
how
his day,
handsome
huh?
Nagesh
Now
looked. Yeah.
This is new information for him.
Now you've done
I
it.
swear to God.
Did he tell you when you were
No, it's all after the fact.
Now what's the
Sudip,
point?
yeah,
This
he-
is the
Way
only
too
reason we
much-
put
way
this
too much
round table
attention.
together to give you that.
Seriously. I even dubbed for him. He never mentioned it.
But Sudip, we spoke a year ago and you talked about the lack of data from platforms, the lack of success metrics, whatever you want to call it. And according to Omax Media, which we'll call an indication, season 2 of Paatal Lok has clocked in 17 million views, and it's one of the most watched shows this year across platform.
Wow.
So congratulations, even as an
I mean,
indication.
honestly, I don't know what to make of this data.
We use what we have.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's good data, I'll say thank you.
Lots and lots of
Bad
people
da-
watched it
bad
and liked
data,
it.
you just say,
He's
"Power."
feeling really bad right now, like the earth should swallow him.
But yeah, I mean, see, Ormax data is not actual data; it's
Yeah.
an estimation.
Noticed.
So if it's a good number, I don't even know what that 17 million means. If it's a good number, yeah. Okay.
We take that.
What does it mean for the next season?
Yeah.
What does it mean for my career? I think those are the things that actually.
Can I ask the next season question again? No, okay, I'll come back to it. Before we move on with our conversation with these glorious storytellers, a quick word on our sponsor for this roundtable, Story TV. If you've had a long day at work and are looking for something to watch, or you have a few minutes to kill while traveling, or you're just simply bored, say hello to Story TV. Story TV is India's leading microdrama platform with over 2 crore users and over 300 microdramas on their library. They specialize in immensely bingeable and insanely fun, entertaining stories that fit right in the palm of your hand to help make those moments of boredom less chaotic. They've got over 300 titles across romance, action, comedy, horror, thriller, and even reality shows. Watch out for titles like tech thriller Hacker King, or slick racing drama Race Ka Badshah, or dating reality show Sach Ya Kalesh, or explore the cutthroat world of finance with the corporate drama Kismat Ka Sikandar. You can kickstart with a 1-week trial with hundreds of titles for every mood, genre, and occasion. There's literally something for everyone. If you have 8-minute break, Story TV dekh. You can download Story TV now on the Play Store and App Store. And now, back to the roundtable. Nagesh is coming to the hunt. I wanted to ask you what the most challenging part of tackling the show was, because it's a true story, it's based on a book. It's obviously a very historic investigation. There are rival perspectives of what happened. You're trying to dramatize sort of reality. So what was the toughest part of tackling this?
I can make a blanket statement that it's the toughest thing that I've ever done. A good chunk of it was in the writing, because you're literally wading through a minefield. Every word out of every character's mouth, and there's this constant stress of, okay, who's going to be pissed off with this? And the LTT is such a sensitive topic, and I'm very close to Tamil Nadu. I spent a good chunk of time there. I went to a boarding school there, so I have a lot of Tamil friends, and I know what this would mean to them. Not that I was holding them, keeping them as a metric at the back of my head and writing, but so as a writer, there was this stress of, are we getting this right? And even after that, once the lawyers came in, I mean, there were 4 to 6 months of trying to get things sorted from different sets of lawyers. Should this be re-edit scenes, chop things out? So that was really, really stressful. I don't think I want to do something like that again because it's not worth it, because looking around this room, we're in it for the joy of, getting a scene right, or, putting the right lines in someone's mouth, not to be stressed out about the fact that someone's going to file a lawsuit. And so, but what appealed to me, and the reason why I even did The Hunt, was the fact that it genuinely was a thriller. It had nothing to do with the politics of it. It was a thriller which had the most ridiculous turns that I guarantee all 7 of us couldn't have come up with. I mean, and this happened. I mean, the biggest breaks in the show happened because I don't want to give away any spoilers.
Please do. I mean,
something random just happened. Some guy stopped at a stop sign without a freaking license, So these were things that drew me to the story. Now, once I put on the director's hat, so when I was doing this, I said, I went to a boarding school in Tamil Nadu, I understand Tamil, and I should be able to. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Directing actors speaking Tamil. I was just a nobody, an observer. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I would always think of directors who were directing people in languages that they didn't know. And, Priyadarshan comes to mind. He's done so many Hindi films. I'm like, how the hell do they do that? And I have to give you one example which kind of brings everything together. And this was my first day directing the Tamil actors. So we were doing a scene and in which Sivarasan meets with Prabhakaran. So, here's the LTT Supremo and here's the main antagonist and the two of them. So I run them through the scene, and when I'm talking to them, I'm always explaining to actors in English. So Sivarasan is played by Shafiq. Prabhakaran is played by this actor Dilip. Now both of them are Mallus. Both of them are from Kerala. So I start speaking in English and Sivarasan just has a blank look. So after a little while I said, oh, do you understand English? Thoda, he said. So I said, okay. So to Dilip, I fully break the whole scene down, how I want it done. He understands English, done. Then I go to Shafiq, then I break the scene fully down in Hindi. And this went on throughout the show. I mean, what should have taken maybe an hour to crank out a scene would take like 2.5 hours, because it was just like waiting in the dark. But yeah, so it has to be the toughest thing I've ever done.
I also have to ask you about that last episode. It is such because the big sort of climax to this investigation is an anti-climax, which in itself is a very powerful statement, because the political machinery basically holds the investigation back and it speeds towards something and then time just stands still. So it was a very interesting decision. What was it like? Because even our not main character, but the lead investigator, who we have very high sort of opinions of, suddenly flips on its head because we don't think the same of him. So what were the conversations you had about framing that last episode?
So originally when we wrote just 6 episodes, okay? And I actually remember I was on the recce, and we were trying to find a place that would mimic Konanukunte, where finally they are caught. And it was on the outskirts of Bombay here somewhere. And when I went there, it was one of those random thoughts where you're kind of looking at a set and you're saying, okay, maybe the commandos come in from there, and this is where the actors will be and stuff. And it was one of those moments I said, this cannot be the last 15 minutes of episode 6. It can't. Because when I read it and we'd done all the research, the most ridiculous part of the entire investigation are the last 36 hours when they're right at the doorstep. So I went back to Applause and I said, I want a 7th episode. And Samir backed me completely on it. So I took those last 10 or 15 minutes and stretched it out to, because I said, let the audience experience exactly what the investigators went through. And I'm going to take them there. And interestingly, the ones who liked the anticlimax really liked it, and a huge chunk of the audience hated episode 7. Hated.
Which is sort of the point, right? You're basically selling that experience of what happened.
Because I've had people come back and tell me, till 6 episodes, man, you just had me there. And then 7th episode, ढीला is the word there. एकदम ढीला है, जो पैसा है लोग बैठे रहते हैं, कुछ होता नहीं है.
So you're bringing the investigation to life.
Exactly.
Just coming to the mockumentary crime thrillers, that's what we're calling it, Black, White and Grey. I've told you several times how it's some of the most fun I've had watching anything this year, because it's a show where you're interrogating the show itself and you're having such a blast trying to decode it while also follow it. And in trying to sort of comment on our obsession with true crime, you've also crafted a very compelling, very exciting fake true crime case. You said till today people are messaging you thinking that it's all real and it's not actually fake.
Yeah, the best compliment that I got was a single-star review somewhere that these filmmakers are bloody doing propaganda for these criminals. They didn't even realize that it's fake. So that's the best compliment I've got. उसके 6 episode देख के still feels the video that we did together. उसके comments में भी people are like, I came here to search for Daniel Gray's channel and the real people, and I figured out.
You're part of the cover up.
And after watching the interview, he's like, yo, the whole thing is fake. So that's the best thing that has happened.
You also said you got invited to some documentary filmmaker panels.
Yeah. Without taking any names, I got a call from somebody important telling me that one good way to promote the show would be to get the real victims to news channels and I was like, where do I start?
But it is such an exciting show. It's also visually so interesting. I wanted to ask you, there are obviously larger themes you're trying to talk about. You're trying to talk about our relationship as an audience with these sort of well-packaged narratives, and you're asking us to question it. But because it's such an engaging watch, were you ever worried that will people even engage with the deeper themes? Will they just sort of engage with the surface because it is such a fun surface? Or will it really be the thought-provoking thing that you hope it would be?
मुझे लगता है उसमें इतना कुछ intelligent thought मैंने डाला है. I just started writing something which I would love to watch, and it's subconsciously all the political themes and whatever social themes that came into it was not by design. It's just, and I can't afford right now to think of what audience will have. I've just made one show. It's something just I wanted to write and it got made, and we'll see now. Abhi I have not reached there what people might like. I think I'll need to.
But have you had those conversations with people that did they really get what you were going for in terms of?
No, right now I'm just too excited to just show it to people and look at their faces. I'm just that
like I told you, those are some of my favorite performances this year. You know, your documentary half of the show, because everyone has that experience. At some point, they're starting to wonder, because they're so well done that you're believing them. You know, the casting, the performances, the actors.
उसमें काफी मेहनत गई है to make how do we make the interviews look authentic. So we shot it on smaller these FX cameras, and we kept the audio mono for those interviews, and we included lapel mic rustles whenever the characters touch their t-shirts, and we included some shots where boom is coming into the shot. So it looked like a one-man job, and Daniel's voice was treated like he's not wearing a lapel. He's talking from behind the camera. Though we have dubbed him later, but it was treated like that. So उसमें काफी मेहनत की, and with actors. So you can't make trained actors act like non-actors. Yeah, it's like asking a good singer to sing Besura. They can't do it. उनका संस्कार इतना होता है कि वो आके they give the exact look, and संजय का मैंने जैसे बताया, the complex part was that कि वो आके बैठने के बाद the confusion in the look कि कहाँ देखना है मुझे, interviewer को देखना है कि कैमरा में देखना है. So that a lot went into that, I think.
How many people have asked you, can you tell us what happened at the end? Did he do it? Did he not do it?
That's the point. Even I don't know. That's the point of the show.
And in terms of the second season, you said Daniel Gray, more adventures. Is that something that...
I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm not getting any of my future seasons. I will have to ask again. But you said you would like to sort of explore more adventures potentially.
Why not? Definitely.
But then now the jig is up on the form, so you'd have to try and find a way of expanding it.
Correct.
I also have to ask all of you a bit of a landscape question. There's no way I'm collecting this group of people without picking their brain on what the hell is happening. I spoke to one writer who called it a wasteland, said projects have dried up, shows are getting cancelled, budgets have come down, things are stalled and cancelled, interference is at an all-time high. It's content creation, not filmmaking. So is it that bad? And what do we do?
I'll go.
Yeah, all right.
So I can be short first. He's right, or he or she is right about everything. But I think the one thing that you're asking this group is, whether it's gotten so bad that we won't do it. Because the bottom line is, no matter how much we complain, no matter how many galis we give, we'll still continue doing what we do. And therein lies the answer. Because I've been around for a very long time. I've seen crap up and down and, all around, and specifically when the corporatization began. So I've been along that journey, and each time there's just so much insane crap that you have to deal with. And then you kind of, trust me, I've walked out of those meetings giving all kinds of galis, but you find a way to get your stuff done. Because the truth is, none of us want to leave this space.
Of course.
We're like crack addicts.
Absolutely.
Right?
100%.
The quality of stuff is just going down and down, but you still want to do it, right?
Correct. I mean, from all of us have experienced this, from our first seasons to the following seasons, the kind of stuff that has gone down where everything seems like a compromise.
You've said that with 3 seasons of City of Dreams. You said after every season you could tell how much things have changed, interference-wise, etc.
I mean, the carte blanche that I had with season 1 just quickly evaporated by the time we even began writing season 2. And by the time season 3 came around, no one needed to tell us anything. We were just happily self-censoring. So, things change, stuff like that, but we'll find a way to get our stories told.
I will take the hope. But Sudip, you told me last year that the party's over, in terms of...
And I got into a lot of trouble because of that.
I did ask you about that. We did talk about how Amazon is a rich guy's hobby. You don't have to. But just give me some perspective on how, is it just that they just won't take a punt on anything ambitious, as you say? And what happens if I'm the next Sudip Sharma, the next Vikramaditya Motwane? Are people going to trust my voice? Are people going to, or is it, if you're in a position of power, then you're okay, but what happens to the next?
You're not okay, even if you're in a position of power. See, these are difficult times, and I'll be honest, it's everyone's acting very super safe. But if there's anything that I know or have learned about this business, is that the surest way to be unsafe is to play safe. Where you think that, I know this works, and so let me just do this and stay away from. This is a business that's built on risks. If not storytelling, where else are you going to take those risks? And that's it is. It's tough. It's tough. But like Nagesh said,
it's very Hathiram of you. You're fighting the good fight, but the war feels like it's been lost.
Yeah.
Once he gets to the third act, we'll see what he does.
He said it this time, not me. But what are the biggest fights today? Is it budgets? Is it casting? Somebody told me language has never been a tougher fight. Certain ratios of sort of Hindi to English or whatever. So what is the toughest or most common fight or pushback from platforms?
Platforms? All platforms? I don't know if it's homogeneous as yet. So I think individually there's a lot. Look, legal is always the number one pushback that every creative ends up getting, is that, and I think that we've now actually got used to the idea of self-censoring, which is not good, but I think we're all smart enough. We've all dealt with, because I think most of us have come from a feature film background, we understand that the censor board is how to be able to navigate the censor board. You know it, right? So then you also know, okay, we know how to navigate it here. You learn those things.
But legal because you're telling real life stories, or could be for anything?
Legal because of anything. They've become super sensitive. Right? Anything. A name of a character should be changed because somebody.
Cook was called Gangaram. It didn't get approved. You can't use Gangaram.
Yeah.
Your names
to
need
make him
approval.
Rajesh.
Yeah. This is like on Jubilee. It's Siddhant. Jai Khanna's father his original name was Ram Narayan Khanna, and they said no, you can't have that name, and I'm like, but it's Arun Govil playing the character. And I'm like, no, I'm like, this is not. I can't argue this. And it's that, and I get why. I understand why exactly, because it's, the lawyer's job is to protect the client, and they want to sort of like always look at the worst case scenario, as they do. I just feel that sometimes there's like a little bit of like, hey, let's sit across the table, have a drink, have a coffee, and discuss this, as opposed to like, this is it, and that's it. But
I'll tell
chalo,
you the
that's
funniest that I got. Like, so there's a place which is called Dalerpura, right? The lawyers came back saying, please take an NOC from Daler Mendi. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. They really came back with that.
So
yeah, I mean, it's just.
Did you reach out to his people?
I had one early from where in Black Warrant there's the episode where he's teaching him to give galis, right? Like if you give galis in the jail, you'll become tu galiyon ka Gavaskar ban jayega. Is the line to do that? They're like, you can't say that. I'm like, why? It's like, because Gavaskar will be upset. I'm like, but he's saying it in a positive way.
correct.
Gavaskar means you'll be good, you'll be great. No. Come on, guys. Like, so this is what you have to deal with. It's now become comedy, and you understand that. Let's try and sort of like navigate that kind of stuff. So there's layers of it. I think my biggest grouse here ends up becoming creating stuff for presuming people are doing second screen viewing.
Sorry?
Second screen viewing.
For second screen viewing. The fact that, people are going to be watching this on a small little window, and when the things come, they're going to make it big, so you have to make it in that way where you have their attention throughout, even with audio. And I'm like, no, like sometimes you have to draw a line somewhere saying, why? Why do you have to do that? This is not, I understand why they're doing it. I understand where that's coming from. And I just think that, like, it's these places where, and everybody's getting extremely insecure about this, and there is a certain one-size-fits-all approach that's tending to happen across the board in the most diverse country in the entire world. So I'm just like, this is a bit of I don't get why that should happen. I think that we should make many shows. We should make many different kinds of shows.
Which we have been so far, but clearly.
Which we have been so far, but there's a certain homogeneity tending to happen to everything to be able to reach out to the very same audience with every single show. And I don't get that.
What you're saying about that, the thing that always breaks my heart is, as an audience, it's happened most with Netflix this year. There are the crap shows where from day one, that's always probably what that was. But it's very sad when you see shows where you can tell the germ of the idea, there is sincerity within it, and it has been diluted in the process. That clearly was not what was initially aimed at, and then through the process, it has gone down. But what about you guys? Is there like do you feel a push towards playing it safe? Do they just want more of the same? Is the idea of something new, fresh, which obviously is something that you guys are associated with, is that just being looked down upon now?
No, I mean, I don't know about that way of, like, in terms of creatively being safe kind of thing. I think, we work with both the big platforms, right? And I think both of them trust us to do something crazy anyway. That's not the thing. But speaking about what they were saying earlier, the legalities of it can become a little bit of a problem. And it's not even just the platform, right? I mean, we have a legal team who first, once we make the show, my own legal team goes through it and comes back with 50 changes. I don't even know if Amazon or Netflix legal team will come with these changes, right? I'm like, guys, you're my team, don't throw this many changes. Some are ridiculous, right? Like, for example...
You're getting NOCs from Diljit.
Yeah, but look at this, right? In Guns and Gulabs, there's the bad guy, so-called drug dealer, right? He drives a car, and we have some nice shots of, like a vintage car, right? Because the show itself is 90. It comes and stops, and of course the car is used for bad purposes, because a bad guy is probably killing people coming in the car. So I think, can you get an NOC from this car brand?
Yeah.
Because the bad guy is using your car. I'm like, guys, you gotta be crazy. I mean, like, he's gotta use some car, right? And just because he happens to be a bad guy, I'm not saying the car is killing people. He just happens to be driving it. I mean, I guess you just have to deal with it. There's no solution, right? I mean,
but just coming back to the landscape part, if I'm a young writer, for all of you, give me some advice. What do I do? What if I think I have the next Sacred Games, the next Paatal Lok, the next Family Man, the next Khauf in me, but I'm just not getting the attention. I'm pitching it. I'm losing my mind. what should I be doing? What should I be pitching? If I just want to get something made, what do I do?
I think
Something else.
yeah, exactly.
Become a drafter of NOCs.
So this side is so negative, this side is so positive.
You're in the middle.
I was actually going to go the other way, but anyway.
Just do it.
No, it's changing times for sure. Like, I don't know, he quoted you, so I'm quoting you back.
Well, the youngest guy is here. Ask him. He's the guy.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like that boy who comes here, "Hey, सब कुछ तो अच्छा है, नहीं
I know. That's what I was thinking. That's exactly what we are optimistic. Some of us are optimistic here.
ठीक तो है, everyone's feeling नहीं बेटा तू अभी देख तो अगले साल मिलते हैं हम लोग.
No, but Pushkar, you've said something which I thought was very interesting. You said because you take, I mean, with your show as well, because you're so distinctive, you said that you keep the budget low enough that they will let you take a risk and do something different.
Yeah, I'm ready to pay that price to have my voice.
And that has
I'm
worked
okay
out.
making smaller stuff if I get to make what I want to make. And like they said, I'm playing it safe. In my show, there was no names to the lead characters. Both the boy and the girl, they were just boy and the girl for obvious reasons.
But just give me some advice. Give me some perspective on today. If I want to make something distinctive, should I be looking back at theatrical? Should I be lowering my budget so that people leave me alone? What should I be doing, and how do I try
What
and
kind
make
of a writer are you? What kind of a story you want to say?
something that just gets made?
Sorry?
Something that just gets made?
Oh, that's easy then.
Okay.
Then you write what works.
So
Then
what works?
Then you write the next Sayara, right? What's working? You pick the genre and write it. If you, that's the question. If your question is to say, I want to make something something unique, something that's not out there, is a tougher journey. The other one is easy. You know, you want a horror comedy, you pitch it. 4 companies will take it right now, right? It's what somebody like him wants to make, a mockumentary, whatever he doesn't want to name it, but that label.
Yeah.
Who's going to make that? That's the problem. So when you want to make a special film or unique film or something that you know it's distinct, something that's not running out there, something you believe will run. I'm not talking about the films that you also know there's not going to be audience for. Those are personal films that you make, you struggle to make. That's another journey. But if you think, I want to make a movie about zombies when zombies weren't there, or like a feminist ghost or whatever, there is no precedence. So that's when you struggle as to how do you make it. And you cannot blame the producers, studios or platforms for not backing something like that, because it's their money, it's not your money. Exactly. Very simple. At the end of it, they're putting the money, it's their name at stake, their brand at stake. So they're not going to easily agree to what you say. So if you have a unique story to say, you better make it yourself. Figure a way to make it yourself so it is not corrupted, so it comes out clean the way you want it. If that means cutting the budgets down, putting your money, putting your friends' money, that's the only way your original voice can be made in the past or even right now.
But when you say something like that, I think of the applause model, which is how Black Warrant and The Hunt got made, and many other shows. But there is only one applause, right? So the idea of let's talk about
Talk
shows.
about series, right?
Yeah,
Shows.
let's talk about shows. Make the thing and then hopefully find a home for it. But I mean, that's easier said than done. You know, there aren't many people who will allow you to do it. So how do you go about that? Or is that the right way to do it? Find an individual producer.
Right, I'll still go to make it for YouTube. I know someone who just told me that they were making an interesting show, very small show, but it still was an 8-episoder, 20 minutes each, and they're just making it with the money they collected, making it on YouTube like little things they did, and then it got picked up, right? So that's one way to go. Otherwise, it's the platforms are...
It's 2015 all over again.
Sorry?
It's 2015.
It always is. If you want to make something, you have to make it yourself, number one. See, platforms dictate what they want on their platform. It's their platform and it's their statistics, it's their research. So you can pick the genres that's working for them. They'll come and say young adult, they'll come and say investigative thrillers, whatever. They pick those and say this is what we're looking for at this point. You can get an idea of that pretty easily, I'm sure. Or if you are in between, you're slipping in between cracks now, then you better write a brilliant show. Really, like something like Khauf and his series is something you sit up and say, fuck, I want to make this. So you cannot be middling and expect it to be picked up, especially in this crowded market.
Even for writers, when we went for Khauf, we were given a choice that, if you go for a certain kind of actor, go for a certain kind of cast, this is the budget that you will get, And I mean, I knew that Monika is the one. But the thing is, we chose the kind of people that we wanted. We didn't want faces that have been seen. We wanted it to be raw. So we agreed we'll do it with this much money, you know. And it is also before the budgets were slashed also. This is 2020 that I'm talking about, when budgets were coming out for this show. So yeah, you know, you have to do it. But the bigger question is, I think we don't have the infrastructure also for writers. Where are you're talking about, all these platforms have come from Hollywood, right? But Hollywood has had a tradition throughout of studios having writers on their payroll from the 50s or earlier, 40s, whatever they had. You don't have bigger production houses. You can ask for scripts. Why are you asking for scripts? You know, if you want to really honor writers, you have to make sure that they can stay in the city. How do they stay in the city? You make a contract with 15 writers, your Dharma, your YRF, your all of that, that for 3 years you're going to be here. You have these cubicles, you have 15 writers, churn out stuff.
Because ironically today each writer is doing 15 projects just to get by.
Yeah, I mean, nobody expects a 5 crore ka or a 2 crore ka, 8 crore ka, you know, we'll have, everyone wants sustenance right now. You're not playing the long game. You want right now, we have stars, let's get the script. Where is the hunt for the right script? Why? You give it like 3 years. You pick out your best 15 writers in the city, you pay them every month. You keep them on retainer. I'm sure they'll come out, every production house will have 3 to 5 scripts that they have developed in-house that they love. And I mean, you play the long game. Who will have? Do you have even 10 good scripts right now in town? I don't think so.
So if the landscape is so challenging, if we'll call it that, do you see a lot of you guys returning back to feature films and theatrical? Is that...
It's not for me. Don't look at me and him. We are very optimistic right now. We got to do what we wanted to. It's going to turn out.
I'm optimistic in the fact that storytelling will always win. In the end of the day, like that is going to happen. You will find, and even today's challenging environment, I'm reading some great things, great ideas. The challenge is in how to take those great ideas and convert them into a series or a movie that can hopefully find an audience. And I think the toughest part right now is finding that audience, whether it's in the traditional feature film world, whether trying to figure out what is the right way to market and distribute. I think and we all know, making the thing is the easiest part of the game. Writing and making it is the easiest part of the entire thing. Marketing and distribution is the toughest part of the game.
And you feel like that's tougher now than ever before?
It's not, it's because it's all been, no one's looking at trying to find like really who's your audience. People are just throwing shit at the wall, figuring out the fact that, okay, the audience will come. No, who is your audience? And start to target that audience very specifically. Very few producers, very few people know exactly how to do that in the right sort of way. So I think there is potential. I mean, when you actually sort of like go and look at a Sayyara working, for example, is exactly an example of that audience being found. They found the audience for that movie. Why are Malayalam films working? Why does Loka work? They find an audience. Why does Manjubal Boys work? They find an audience. They know exactly who they're talking to. Once you know exactly who you're talking to and you make the film based on the scale for that and you market it to them, you distribute it to them, it can't not work. I'm assuming, of course, that the film is good. Then it can't not work. So I think I think this scenario will always end up creating more of a challenge. There's so much work out there. There's so much material out there that for the good stuff to work, it has to rise above. And for it to rise above, you'll just have people working harder and writing better things. It will happen eventually. The flip side is the fact that it's such a small market right now. Even within your streamers, the number of players are tiny.
And getting fewer. And
they're getting fewer. Within your production, you send Applause, and Applause literally is the only one, and both of us have done that, who actually work within that model. There should be 20 of them. It makes for a far more robust, competitive market if there's 20 studios out there, because then it's like, oh, if they're making it, then there's some. But the fact that it's so constricted right now that nobody can piss off anybody at this point in time. It's like everybody has to play safe because there's only that many buyers in the market. We have too few buyers in the market, we have too few studios in the market.
And everything becomes catering to...
And everything is then starting to catering towards the whims and the fancies of like 3 people. And that's wrong. That's very wrong. In an industry like this, it's extremely wrong.
And the only thing I want to tag on to what Vikram said is that I have always come at it from the point of view that don't worry about the audience. And because a lot of times when I sit with producers, a lot of the discussions are tailored towards what the audience wants. And I think that starting point is always a wrong place, personally, for me as a filmmaker. I've always come from the point of you need to know what you want. And that may find an audience, may not find an audience. That is not a guarantee. That part is out of your control. This part is the only thing that's in your control. You need all the bloody conviction. I mean, you know, because I saw done at Cannes, for it to do what it takes a long freaking journey, right? And
Speaking of which, happy 15-year anniversary on that one.
And what happened with me with Hyderabad Blues as well, that I had to be absolutely certain that this is what I want. And I used to famously go around saying that even if I made a piece of shit, it's my piece of shit, you know. It sounded very clever at that time. But all I'm trying to say is that conviction is the one that will put you either with a producer who's bringing money in a bag, or a corporate table that has 20 people and they're all pitching in ideas. You need to be clear about what I want to make this, or I'm going to die. That's the starting point. Because not once with anything I've done have I ever even actively considered what the audience might want or might like, and my films split down the middle. Actually, no. More have not worked than the ones that have worked. But that's not going to tell me that, you know, immediately because I started pitching horror scripts to a lot of these platforms 6 years ago.
Really?
Fully written show, 10 episodes. And they're like, horror doesn't work. Horror doesn't work.
Now it's all they want.
Now, those same people, hey, do you have anything?
But do you still have those scripts?
I do.
Okay.
I do, I know.
There's a window.
No, then you have to retool them, like, because it's 6 years later, right? But yeah, so no one knows what anyone wants. So at that moment, it's like only your conviction can take it forward.
Sudip, I'm going to ask you for a prediction, because you said season 1 came out of a place of rage on behalf of you and Hathiram. Season 2 came out of a place of resignation. If there was a season 3, or what does the next 5 years look like in respect to the film industry, to the streaming landscape? If you had to make a prediction, what does the next chapter look like?
It's a tough one. I'm a bleak guy, man. So you don't want me to be making predictions.
I'm very much asking you to.
I put all that bleakness into the scripts, man. They're working.
I think things are going to get shittier before they get better, is what it seems to me. The next 2-3 years, you know, they're going to get worse before we see some sort of, you know, some sort of a recovery and some sort of, you know, going back on it. Because it's also coming, a lot of it is coming from the West, right? Because there's also, you see the slump out there, and that's now more than ever we are so connected to the, you know, the biggest streamers here are also, you know, the biggest streamers out there, and so what's happening outside is also reflecting on what's happening here. The theatrical scene, I feel, is going to come back. It's already kind of coming back compared to what it looked like 2 to 3 years back. So I think, and I also feel a lot of us would now want to look back at that and say, you know what, because this was exciting 10 years back or even 5 years back, because it gave you a lot of freedom to tell your stories your way, and you know, they were suddenly decent budgets, and creatively it freed you and you could do things your way without the pressure of Friday box office and Sunday box office and all of that. Correct. That freedom is kind of going away. You know, it's not the same it was even 2 years back, and like of late I have started asking myself this question after a long time: why aren't you doing a film? You know, and I'm sure, you know, a lot of us are asking ourselves that question. You know, so I think that a lot of that, like the talent that had moved to streaming might also move back to films, which would be great. You know, I would love to see what these guys would make. You know, back in theaters, because now also the problem that's happening is what's getting made in theaters is not the stuff that a lot of us would like to watch anyways, you know. So if that excitement kind of goes back, and the exciting talent and the exciting storytelling goes back to theatrical, then why not?
I'll take the hope.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that to go to a hopeful place, I'm not going to lie. But that's where I did want to end. I want to ask all of you, apart from the doom and gloom narratives, to just tell me one thing this year that brought you hope. Could be a performance, a show. For me, the two answers I'd have is Black Warrant, the fact that show gets made the way it was, and to see something like that to get made despite the system. And the other one was, as a journalist, I hear all these narratives and it's obviously very scary. As an audience still today, I don't know what happens tomorrow, the fact that all of these shows exist. It has been such an exciting year for streaming. I think is very hopeful. But Pushkar, you go first. Something this year that brought you hope, or you're already very hopeful. But
I'm very hopeful.
wait for it.
Yeah, I know. My guess is it will happen in 6 months. There will be something in a different space. But yeah, I'm already there. I'm meeting executives of different platforms. They call me and they don't know about the show. They don't know about me.
Okay.
They just know that the show reviews अच्छे मिले हैं.
Oh.
हाँ तुमको अच्छे reviews मिले ना कुछ करते हैं ना साथ में. तो they don't care. They're matchmakers. They don't care. Even the production houses that I meet right now, I realized that they are just matchmakers. Network से किसी ने बोला है कि you get this guy, and उन्होंने मुझे बुला लिया है कि अब तुम जानो network जाने. हाँ हमको 10 रुपए मिल जाएंगे, हम 8 रुपए में शो बना लेंगे, 2 रुपए हम करेंगे, बाकी तुम हाँ देख लो whatever works for you. वो नेटवर्क को भी यही बोलते हैं हाँ whatever works, this guy works for you, हाँ we take this. So I'm that guy right now. Nobody cares.
It's a great place to
Not
be.
a bad place.
Even when I go to the networks, they've not watched the show. They just उनके कोई senior ने एक episode देख रखा है, बोला यह interesting guy बुला लो. I'm that guy right now.
Enjoy it. It sounds fun.
Yeah, so I'm getting to make stuff. तो तब तक तो ठीक ही है.
I'll take the hope.
Yeah.
Vikram, what about you?
I think Pushkar gives me hope, man.
I was going to say the same. Yeah.
It's like, hats off to you. I wish you all the luck in the world. And I mean, I'm trying to stay as positive as possible. But if there's like 100 more like Pushkar out there who are going to be writing cool, interesting stuff, that even if 25% of that actually sort of like comes out and gets made, it's a sea change. I think that there is something there. And it eventually, I think, comes down to the writers and the creators in the industry. And Khauf's reception gave me a lot of hope. I just felt that a sleeper show, in a sense, that is not amongst one of the most anticipated shows, coming. It's like it was so sleeper, but it bit by bit built up word of mouth, built up a solid reputation, and even the way the studio approached your marketing, your artwork, was like great. It can be done. You can make great stuff, and you can have a studio support it in the right sort of way, and not just dump it out there, not just do that, but sort of say we know exactly what we're sort of like targeting. The fact that your posters looked completely different than anything else out there, the fact that the entire vibe looked different, and that for me is a success. And that, so like if it can be done, why can't it be done more often? So that is
It sends the right signals.
It sends the right signals.
Yeah, and I also agree with what he said, that if you want to really make something, make it yourself. Like I'm working on a film and I knew कि ये कहीं से commission नहीं होगी. So Black Warrant, but there was a pressure of doing some commission show, and I went back to an indie film because I knew कि ये film नहीं बनाएगा कोई, ये इसको indie में ही बनाना पड़ेगा, and I'm ready to pay that price. I had to go back to the basics and work on very tight budgets.
So you're the exception. Most people want to go bigger, but
I want to go smaller because I know that's the only way to do it right now. If you want to make something which is innovative for the first, क्योंकि अभी मुझे बहुत सारे calls आ रहे हैं, mockumentary बनाते हैं. But again, the film that I want to make, once it's made, if it turns out एक अच्छी film बन जाती है, तो then we would want.
As long
to
as it
do
lets you make the next thing.
Yeah. So अभी तो मुझे कोई नहीं बनाने देगा वो film, so that's why I went back to the indie space and I'm making that film. Yeah.
Smita, what about you?
I've always worked, like before, from 98 I've been working with television, right? And those were non-fiction shows, and we always had a client who was Nat Geo, Discovery. Now, I've never worked with Indian producers or Indian clients, so I was always working with them. So the fact that they would send notes, the fact that they could pull a show, the fact that they can always take your edit away from you, that's something that I've been trained for. So the notes and all don't bother me so
That's
much.
what film school should be today.
Film school we don't have infrastructure. So you have to also see that there is a flesh and blood person behind that platform, and you have to have a relationship with them. You have to understand that they have their analytics because of which In the beginning, they didn't have. So everyone was throwing things at the wall, and you didn't know what was going to stick. Now you kind of know. So I am in a very positive space right now that I have. The best thing about this year is that I have 10 stories that I'm excited about in my kitty, and I have a little bit, like tiny bit more confidence in my writing than I had before the release. So that's the best thing for me right now.
Raj?
The bleak part is that the
I don't think you understood the
I'm hearing
He's bleak and
automatic
bad.
translation. No, I'm both.
I have to start wearing black.
He said wear
He
black.
asked us, na, as if he
Those are
He
somber
says, screw all the
conversations.
bleak parts, tell me the one positive thing. We need a happy
He's
ending.
trying for it.
Yeah, we need a happy ending is what he's saying.
I don't know. I mean, they answered it correctly. The hope is these two people. The bleak part is that I think it's a slump for the series world, and it's also extremely hardworking.
Yeah.
Feeling tired from this, making these shows and journey, and within that internal journeys and stuff. So the hope is theatres. The hope is we're excited to take our learnings, all the skills we have honed, because series gave the opportunity to hone your storytelling techniques, your skills, because otherwise the format was too fixed. Even in my head, as people were talking, I looked back at one of my films and I'm thinking, that was a very clean structure. I could have done so much to it.
Yeah.
But that's because of the trappings of the industry at that point, where you are conditioned to think that way. Interval, song, whatever, the whole thing. Packaging, you need that actor, this. And you've been free of all those constraints, and you're making solid storytelling at this point, and character development and all these kind of things. So excitement is in taking these learnings and putting it in a film and see how we can, within the 2-hour structure.
So one thing I'll say, and you've also informed the audience to what to expect from good storytelling because of that, right? The audience knows that bad storytelling in cinema from good storytelling in good shows. So that's a great thing.
They're
no?
exposed to both. So they're watching really good writing or a character development or some specific aspects in series, and you're not seeing it in features, most of the features. So you're thinking, there is good quality here, how come it's not here? So we are still packaging the films, it's still running on packaging, right?
Beards and biceps.
Beards and biceps.
That's the flavor of the season.
Okay.
Beards and biceps.
So yeah, I'm thinking, yes, they know it, so I'm hoping that we can take some of it. That's the hope.
I'll take it. DK, what about you?
No, I mean, completely different answer though. But, no, it's been quite a year. We've had challenges, ups and downs, a lot of crap went down, all that. But I'm happy the Family Man released, and that's like, I mean, what better way for me to end the year, right? I mean, it's like a good high to end the year on. So that's the hope I'm carrying, and we're already working on a few things, series and films for the next year, but this kind of gives you the boost. I mean, the last few months were quite taxing, but I can say right now is a good time.
And the hope of season 4 in 2 months, 3 months.
I will leave the timing to Amazon, but the hope should be there.
I had to
yes.
try.
Yeah.
Nagesh, last word to you.
Hunt saw the light of day,
Yeah.
so that was truly exciting
Yeah.
because there's nothing more horrific than making something and it lying in a can somewhere.
Yeah.
Actually, since I have all of y'all, I'm going to invite you to a film that I made many years ago, which is lying in a can somewhere. That's not seen the light of day.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, anyways, the quick digression, but so that was good, and then I have another show coming out
In
so
literally a couple of weeks,
in a
your
couple of
output
weeks,
is insane.
So that's good, but the biggest learning, which actually has given me a high this year, is the fact that, and I've managed to do it periodically in my career, is I've always gone back to making something small. And I've done that period every time I get, stressed out with the environment. The only thing that gives me hope, and it's always been something that's rescued me, and it's happened many times in my career, is to go back to my indie roots and just make something like the film I just pitched, which never saw the light of day. But I did it, And when I do that, I feel like, oh, this is the reason I've been in the. So, cut a long story short, I'm writing something like really small and dirty that I'm going to start shooting
interesting.
perhaps
Dirty
in
sounds good.
Dirty sounds really
Dirty
nice.
sounds good.
Jan, Feb, just to,
Exercise the demons.
yeah, just cleanse all this negativity of boardroom.
We're doing a detox film.
Yeah, just so.
That should be a new genre, detox film.
Detox film. We all want
Hopefully-
detox films. Even I do. Everybody wants that small
Yeah.
film. Like everybody wants to be in his shoes right now. We're all looking at him and saying, I want to make that my way.
But thank you to all of you. I wish I could do a whole show worth of this, but we have to stick to a feature film. But thank you for the stories, thank you for the hope, because as I said, as an audience, it has been an incredibly exciting year. So yeah, I hope the future is very much that as well. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.